Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to my kitchen here in sunny California. Today, we're gonna make confetti snickerdoodle ice cream sandwiches. They're gonna be really, really, really good. This is a really fun recipe to do with kids. It's a pretty easy cookie to make. Kids love ice cream. Kids love cookies. Kids love sticking things in giant bowls of sprinkles that we'll do later. It's super fun. All right, before you start, you have some homework. First thing you got to do, make sure your butter is room temperature, right? You don't want to pull cold butter out of the fridge and then try to stick it in the mixer. It makes a big mess. It's hard on the motor. It makes getting all of your ingredients incorporated much more difficult, which usually leads to over mixing, which leads to a tough cookie. Second thing, make sure your oven is preheated to 350 degrees. Third, make sure you get parchment onto your cookie sheets. And fourth, make your cinnamon sugar beforehand. This is all called mise en place, right? So you'll hear chefs talking about mise en place. Mise en place is French for things in place. And what it means is measuring out all of your ingredients before you start baking, getting the oven hot, making sure your butter's the right temperature, getting your pans ready to go. You're trying to bake, and it's really good to be able to go from step to step to step and not have to stop, look in the drawer for the tablespoon. Oh, it's in the sink because I measured this other thing. Now I got to wipe it, and now I got to dry it. You don't want to do all that stuff when you're baking. It's best get all this stuff done, and that way your baking is just going to be smooth sailing. Smooth sailing. All right, first thing we're gonna do is make the confetti snickerdoodles. Now, this is a really simple cookie. It starts with the creaming method. The creaming method is when you take the butter and the sugar and you whip it in the mixer with the paddle, and you kind of paddle it. So the reason why you want to paddle the butter is because the butter has sort of like trained itself to be in a sort of certain position. And you want to beat that butter up so everything is like really soft and flowy and moving, and the butter is able to accept eggs and accept flour and accept the salt and accept all these other things. And it really makes a big difference in your final product because you really want everything like really homogeneous. Okay, so butter's in here. Here's my sugar. And I like to cream the salt in there too. Some people wait. I say go for it. It's fine. And now I'm going to turn this on. Turn this on slow, right? If you turn it on too fast, it all comes out and makes a huge mess. So what's happening is the butter is sort of like starting to be introduced to the sugar and things are moving. Now, the reason why you cream the butter with the sugar is because the sugar, if you feel, it's like kind of gritty, like sand. It's an abrasive. So as you're whipping this butter and sugar together, all those little sugar crystals are kind of getting like thrown around inside the butter, and it's helping to break up all those fat crystals that are in there. It's going to get them really smooth. So now you can turn it on a little faster. Now at this point, you can't overmix it, right? Like you could go pour yourself a cup of coffee and go walk around the block. It's fine. You can let this thing go. You're going to whip a lot of air into it, but you can't overmix it. Overmixing happens when you have the flour in here, and we'll talk about sort of gluten development and everything later. All right, so I got my butter and sugar creamed, right? But here's really, really important, and we're going to do this a lot, and I'm going to talk about it a lot because this is important. You got to scrape the bowl. You got to scrape the bowl every time. Whenever you add a new ingredient to your cookie dough, you got to scrape the bowl. It's really important. And the reason why is because this thing doesn't touch the side of the bowl. And because there's that little space in there, like unincorporated ingredients will go rogue and they will stick to the side of the bowl and they'll stick to the paddle, and then they won't be in your cookie dough. So what I'm doing is just scraping the butter and the sugar and then putting it back in there. So I'm going to put this back on. Okay, next step is we're going to take the flour. I'm going to put it in a bowl. All right, so cream and tartar and baking soda into the cookies. All right, so now we're going to mix this up. And what you're doing a couple things. One, you're making sure that the cream of tartar and the baking soda are getting all mixed up in there. And two, you're breaking up any of the starchy lumps in the flour, right? Because if you have these lumps, then you have to mix the dough longer to get the lumps out. And the longer you mix the dough, the tougher the cookie. So this really helps with not having to mix the dough too long. Okay, now I'll show you a cool trick. I'm going to take the flour mixture and I'm going to dump it right onto this piece of paper. Right? Because taking one of these and trying to get it into here is a recipe for a mess. All right, so now I'm going to crack the egg into a little bowl. This way I can make sure I don't get any shell. Oh, see, look at that. Look at that big chunk of shell. Right? Now, if I just crack the egg right into the bowl, that piece of shell would have gone into the cookie dough. That's not where that goes. That is not where that goes. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this on slow. And I'm going to add, basically a bunch of the white. Okay, this is the magic trick. Take the paper, fold it just like this. And now you can go right into the mixer. Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Without making a mess. All right, and then I'm going to, just like that. All right, turn this off. Now, we're not all the way mixed yet, but I'm going to take this off because I don't want to overmix this flour. So we're going to scrape it again. It's really super important. You gotta scrape. It's really important. Gotta scrape it off. Scrape, scrape. Okay. While it's off, you can put the rest of the egg in there. Scrape off the spatula. Let's go back onto the mixer. All right, turn it on slow. Let's get our flour. In you go. Mix, mix, mix. And I'm going to stop. Now, check this out. That doesn't look mixed. That doesn't look mixed. Well, I don't want to overmix it. So I'm going to finish it with the spatula. It's much more gentle than using a really strong machine. So let's get all this stuff off the paddle. And really, make sure the paddle's clean. You don't want to, some little piece of flour like went through this long journey from, the earth in some field in Kansas to a mill to your kitchen to end up just being stuck to a paddle and washed down the sink. That's really sad. So now I'm mixing this up. And it'll come together. Use a little elbow grease. Okay, and now I know that my cookies are not overmixed. They're going to be really tender, really soft. Okay. Looking good. But now you're looking at this and you're like, wait a minute, Duff, you liar. You said that these were confetti cookies. You didn't add any sprinkles. Well, I'm going to add sprinkles. Hold your horses. I didn't want to add the sprinkles while the dough was on the mixer, because you put the sprinkles in there, all the color from the sprinkles comes off of the sprinkles and turns your cookie dough gray. And nobody wants gray cookie dough because it's gross. It just looks gross. All right, so now I'm going to put the sprinkles in. That was fun. And now, by hand, I'm going to just mush them in there. I've always wondered, like, why do sprinkles distribute so evenly in the cookie dough? Like, you know, if you got like cookie dough, and then you put the sprinkles in there, and then like the sprinkles are sort of like moving within the cookie dough and getting all mashed around. But like, can't like just mathematically, like at some point, like all the sprinkles will just go to one spot in the cookie dough? Like, why do they distribute so evenly automatically? Like, do they know? Is it some sort of like Heisenberg uncertainty sprinkle? Like, I don't get how that works, but it does, because I'm just mashing this up and it's pretty even. Why does that work every time? Okay, so there's your dough. It's got sprinkles in it. It's ready to go almost. First, I want you to stick it in the fridge and chill it for 15 minutes. Hit pause, and I will see you on the other side. Okay, guys, I got cold dough, and I've got cinnamon sugar, and this is a cookie scoop. If you don't have a cookie scoop, you can use tablespoons. Here's the thing, though. With these, we're making ice cream sandwiches. You really want to make sure that all the cookies are the same exact size. You don't want to have like a bigger cookie and a smaller cookie. So it really does help if you have a scoop, because that way every single cookie is the exact same amount of dough. If you don't have one of these and you really want to make sure that you're super accurate, use a scale if you have one, so that way it's like, each cookie will be exactly 20 grams, 25 grams, whatever it's going to be. I'm going to get the dough into the cookie scoop, right? And then I'm going to, pat it down and make sure that it's level. So I have like the right amount of cookie dough in there. Now I'm going to pop it out into my hand and just gently roll it into a ball. And then I'm going to drop it in the cinnamon and sugar and kind of roll it around. Right? And so the whole cookie will get coated in cinnamon sugar. And then we just stick it onto the paper and then give it a light pat. Don't mash it down, okay? This isn't therapy, okay? You're not trying to sort of get all your stress out. Gently, violin fingers, okay? Gently just pat it down. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow the cookie to spread much more evenly, and the oven and gravity doesn't have to do all the heavy lifting of trying to get the cookie to sort of be the right shape, right? And what it'll do is it'll make sure that you don't have any like weird cookie peninsulas like sticking off, like going in sort of like a weird direction, because then you'll have a weird cookie that you don't really want to use. One of the things that's really important with an ice cream sandwich is like it's like really like this, like it's very joyful, right? They're really cute, they're really fun. When you see an ice cream sandwich, you're like, yes, this is going to be awesome. I cannot wait to eat this ice cream sandwich. And you sort of like anticipate the bite. And as you're like thinking about, this awesome thing you're about to eat, if you're looking at it and it's got some sort of weird, chunk like sticking off of it, it kind of ruins the effect. You know what I mean? Like it's just not as dope as it could be. So what I really want to do, I want to make sure that all these cookies are really nice and circular. I also want to make sure they're the same thickness. They have to be the same thickness because when they go in the oven, if one of them is really thick, that one's going to bake longer than one that is a lot thinner. And then what happens is you either end up with a cookie that's not baked enough, the fat one, or you end up with a cookie that is too far baked, which would be the skinny one. You know, that's really important. I mean, the thing is, like with baking, you know, baking is a science, and you have to be accurate with everything. When you have to be accurate with your ingredients. You have to be accurate with your temperatures. You know, it's really important because like a lot of the things that happen in baking are like chemical reactions, and chemical reactions depend on ratios. So if you have a certain ratio of, say, you know, acid to baking soda, that's what makes the proper lift in a cookie, for example. If you have too much baking soda, you're going to get too much lift, and your cookie's going to be weird, right? If you have too much acid, it won't, like, it'll use up all the baking soda, like it'll react with all the baking soda, but then there's going to be extra acid. And if there's extra acid, you're going to taste it. You'll taste it. It'll be kind of vinegary. And so it's really important that if a recipe calls for exactly a teaspoon of baking soda, that's what you use. You know, it's not something like you'll see like cooks, right? Like, you know, you see Bobby Flay and he's like making a stir fry or something and he grabs some salt and he throws it in there, right? He doesn't need to measure it. Like, one, Bobby knows exactly how much salt he's using, but two, if it's a few grains more or a few grains less, it's not going to make a difference. With baking, you can't just grab a handful and throw it in there. It's just not how it works. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm really even with my spacing of the cookies. You want to make sure that the cookies are the same distance apart from each other. The reason why is that, one, you have to make sure that there's good airflow around the cookies. If the cookies are too close together, you're not going to get that airflow and it's not going to bake right. You're going to have parts of the cookie that are going to bake faster than other parts. The other thing is that the cookies are going to spread. So you got to make sure they're far enough apart that they have room to sort of, you know, and do their thing. Because if you don't leave room, they and they sort of like melt into each other. And now you're going to have a weird shaped cookie. You're not going to have something round. You're going to have something that, you know, has a tangent cut out of it. That's no good. And the other thing that I believe, I don't know if this is true, but I believe that each cookie has its own like heat gravity, right? So what happens is if the cookies are, you know, all the cookies are sort of reacting with each other inside of the oven, right? Where each cookie is sort of like, you know, accepting the heat, the energy that it's taking out of the atmosphere. If you have cookies that are closer together and some that are farther apart, those ones that are closer together like create a denser, you know, heat gravity field, and then other cookies aren't going to get the same amount of heat. Again, I don't know if that's true. It's just something I've thought about over the years. I think it's true. But I did just make that up. So, yeah. Made up science with Duff. Hey, kids. There we go. Okay, one more. One more. All right, there we go. This smells good. Okay, so this recipe makes 24 cookies. Here's the thing. If you don't want to make all the cookies, the dough freezes really good. So you can make 12 cookies, wrap up the rest, stick it in the freezer, and then whenever you want cookies, you pull it out, scoop them out, and do your thing. And then you can have cookies whenever you want. Cookie dough is good like that. All right, so these are going to go into the oven at 350 degrees for like 15 to 18 minutes. When they're done, I'm going to stick them in the freezer and get them nice and cold. All right, guys, so you should have now 24 Snickerdoodles. So what I'm going to do is take an ice cream scoop and pull out a good amount of ice cream. And then try to get it relatively centered onto your cookie. Now, try to sort of moosh it together and then gently press. Gently press, just like this. Then what I like to do is just give it a little scrape and just get the extra ice cream off. Extra ice cream, like that's a thing. But you kind of want to make sure that the edges are pretty clean, because then, and this is the fun part, kids, don't let the adults do this. Take the cookie, and I got a bowl of sprinkles here. So you take the cookie and then you jam it into the sprinkles, just like this. So this is super fun. And then you get a sprinkle cookie sandwich. Look at that, right? And then you get like this really cool little sandwich. So I'll show you that again. You get some ice cream. Get it onto the cookie. Give it a moosh. Take off the extra. There we go. And then just jam it into the sprinkles. Okay. Want to do one more? Let's do one more. So, ice cream. Moosh. Trim. And sprinkle. And there they are. So you should probably put these in the freezer at this point. That'll make the sprinkles stick to the ice cream. But I kind of want to eat this right now, so I'm going to do that. Well, pretty good. All right, so what you'll notice is that the cookie like holds itself together, but it's still soft enough that you can get through the cookie and into the ice cream. You can see it like creates a nice bite. The other thing that's really great about these cookies is that it's got a good amount of salt in there, and you'll really taste the salt against the ice cream. This is a really good cookie sandwich. Good luck with your sandwiches, guys, and thanks for watching.